Welcome back to Thinkasium Lab GOAT series on human values, where we explore the greatest ideas that shape how humans live, choose, and grow. This is episode 11, and today we take the next natural step in our journey. We began with Franz Brentano, who helped us see how our emotions guide us toward what feels meaningful. Then we moved to Max Scheler, who showed us that not all values are equal. Some reach deeper and shape who we become. But this raises a crucial question. Once we know which values matter more, how do we actually live by them? This is where Alasdair MacIntyre enters the story. This episode draws on an article by Dr. Ramu Bishwakarma, published on Medium on June 1st, 2025, exploring Alasdair MacIntyre's ideas on virtue, character, and meaningful living. Alasdair MacIntyre is one of the most influential moral philosophers of the modern era. Born in Scotland in 1929 to an academically inclined family, he studied classics and philosophy in London and Manchester before beginning a long and wide-ranging academic career. Over the decades, MacIntyre taught at major universities in both the United Kingdom and the United States, including Oxford, Boston University, Duke, Vanderbilt, and the University of Notre Dame. His intellectual life was marked by deep engagement with Marxism, Christianity, and modern moral philosophy, before he ultimately returned to and reconstructed Aristotle's virtue ethics as the most coherent way to understand the moral life. His personal journey reflects this search for moral clarity, including his conversion to Catholicism later in life. And through all of this, MacIntyre noticed something troubling. Modern societies talk a great deal about values, fairness, integrity, responsibility, courage, yet we often disagree deeply about what these words mean and how to live them. We use the same moral language, but it no longer points us in the same direction. So MacIntyre asked a simple but unsettling question. What does it really mean to live a good life today? To answer this, MacIntyre turns back to an ancient source, Aristotle. More than 2,000 years ago, Aristotle argued that a good life is not built on rules or quick rewards, but on virtue, stable habits that shape our character over time. MacIntyre agrees with Aristotle's core insight. We become good by practicing goodness. Courage is not just something we admire, it is something we repeatedly do. Honesty is not just a belief, it is a habit. Compassion is not just a feeling, it is a way of showing up for others again and again. For both Aristotle and MacIntyre, virtue grows through practice, patience, and time. MacIntyre extends Aristotle's insight into the modern world. He argues that virtues do not develop in isolation. They grow inside what he calls practices, meaningful shared activities with internal standards of excellence. Think of parenting, teaching, medicine, science, art, craftsmanship, or public service. Within these practices, we learn fairness, discipline, responsibility, and care for others. This reflects Aristotle's belief that humans are fundamentally social beings. We learn how to live well together, not alone. MacIntyre also explains why living virtuously feels harder today. Modern life moves fast. It rewards efficiency, productivity, and personal achievement. But virtues, as Aristotle already knew, require time, stability, and shared purpose. So we are often pulled toward convenience instead of integrity, recognition instead of honesty, and short-term gain instead of long-term flourishing. MacIntyre challenges us to pause and ask, who am I becoming through my daily habits, choices, and commitments? For MacIntyre, living a good life requires three things. First, virtues, rooted in Aristotelian ethics, habits that shape character. Second, practices and communities, where those virtues can be learned and sustained. And third, a sense of life as a story, a narrative that gives our actions meaning and direction. Like Aristotle, MacIntyre reminds us that a human life must be understood as a whole, not as a series of disconnected moments. When we lose that sense of story, our values become scattered. When we recover it, our choices begin to make sense again. MacIntyre's message matters deeply today. In a world full of noise, speed, and distraction, he reminds us that character still matters. Not just what we say we value, but what we practice day after day. Like Aristotle, MacIntyre teaches us that flourishing is not about comfort or success alone, but about becoming a certain kind of person through virtue, shared practices, and life lived with purpose. So the journey continues. Brentano showed us how we sense value. Scheler showed us which values reach deeper. Aristotle, revived by MacIntyre, shows us how values become character. Together, they offer a powerful and timeless path toward meaningful living. Thank you for watching Thinkasium Lab, GOAT series on human values. If this episode resonated with you, please like, share, and subscribe to Thinkasium Lab so we can continue exploring the ideas that shape who we are and who we are becoming. See you in the next episode.